Hello, what's your name?
My name is Kayla Moore.
Where are you from?
I'm from Waswanipi, Quebec.
How was it growing up in Waswanipi?
It was really nice growing up in such a small community because everyone knew each other and you were always with friends or family. And I think that made it really comforting growing up, always knowing somebody and never feeling like you're alone.
What's something that you really appreciate about your community?
I really appreciate how it's surrounded by nature and is always, how everybody is so close together. I think it's a really, really nice thing.
Can you name a few things that you did not appreciate in your
Growing up, I didn't appreciate the curriculum and the education, and
community? Can you explain why you didn't appreciate it?
in my opinion, no. I think in a lot of the people who I went to school with when I was going to school up north was that the education wasn't caught up, wasn't as we weren't on the same level that other students were doing that were living in the south. The south being Montreal, Ottawa, or Val-d'Or even. And like when I was in secondary one, I think that we were doing grade 5 math. I remember we were receiving like fifth grade worksheets in secondary one, and we were doing grammar. We were still learning where to put our periods and our commas when we were in secondary 5, instead of learning how to write essays and prepare for cégep or college. So I think a lot of people who went to school could agree that the curriculum was a big issue.
What are common obstacles that people face in your community?
I think a lot of people in my community, there's a big epidemic of diabetes, and I think that comes from the lack of healthy food we have. Of course, we always have the option, and it's possible to have healthy food. It's just that we don't receive fresh vegetables or fruit, and that makes it like much more difficult to have more healthier meals because most of the fruit and vegetables we get are not as fresh as here when we go to like the Jean Talon market or any farmer's market. It's usually a bit more older, and so we're not as fortunate. And I think that, and a lot of people turn to turn to frozen foods or canned foods or box foods because it's just more easier instead of eating like instead of trying to make yourself a salad because it's just more harder to get and
Do
it's
you,
not as good.
do you think there's anything people could do to improve that situation with the food?
Personally, I think people could create an indoor garden to and grow like fruits and vegetables of what they could, so that we could have more fresher products. And maybe people would really like that because we would be growing it ourselves. And I think it would be a really great idea for like a community project. And I think it would really benefit people.
Are there specific problems that you think young First Nation women such as yourself face in northern communities?
Maybe the lack of sexual health resources. We have sexual education in our school, but when I was attending school and when we were taught sexual health, it was I think it was through a program called Shikea, and it was kind of like the same sexual health except it had more Cree aspects, Cree culture aspects, and so they would talk about the moon cycle and all these really nice things. So I really appreciated that, but I just felt like that it didn't, or maybe it did, but I just felt like we weren't really taught about pregnancies or STDs or what to do when we become pregnant or what like to do when we have an STD. Because I remember instead of learning how to where to go to get birth control, we were kind of like learning how to make schedules for when we had a baby.
What do you think are possible causes for this difference between the sexual education teaching here and sexual education teaching in Cree communities?
I think in northern communities, I'm not saying that it's all the same, and maybe this course, maybe the sexual education course was really good in other communities and taught like how it should be, and maybe a lot of other people were given these resources. I'm just saying at the time that I was taking the class, that it was a little bit of a different story. But I think if they were to improve it, it would be to like remove the taboo of 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 becoming a young mom and or having an abortion or even considering adoption, because I feel like this was like a large taboo when I was growing up. It wasn't something we did. It wasn't something we talked about. Whenever it was brought up, it was really like frowned upon. So, and a lot of people were really against it in my community. But I think it's just because we weren't used to it. A lot of people weren't really used to these ideas because it wasn't really an option, I guess. I'm sure the resources for these things to happen were there, but it just wasn't really shown to us or given to us. And I think maybe that's one of the reasons why there's such a, maybe you can even say, an epidemic of teen pregnancy.
Other than that, are there any other problems that young people in general struggle with in the northern communities?
I think I would have to say, I think a lot of people, something that I've seen as I was getting older, I noticed that a lot of people were turning towards alcohol and maybe drugs. So they were kind of abusing this or binge drinking. So I think that's a problem that a lot of youth faced. And I think I've seen it in the adults too, but I think a lot of it was because of the residential school effect. There was, I think in some families, of course there's still a lot of pain coming from that, and I think that's why some of it was happening, and I think maybe that was just an effect of what happened.
To conclude, do you have any advice for other young people who would be in a similar situation as yours?
In a similar situation as mine being?
A young First Nation woman from a northern community living in a southern city.
I guess for not just only young First Nations women, but maybe also for just young youth, or maybe even adults too. I would say that my advice to them would be to be brave and to just, it's not as bad as you think it is, and it's not as scary, and it's going to be scary at first and you might not like it, but I think you just have to be brave.
To finish on a positive note, is there anything that you wish everyone would know about your community?
Yeah, I wish everybody would know that I think something that people have told me since I've been living here is that they've been having a lot of misconceptions about how we live in communities and reserves. And I think what I would like for these people to know, or anyone to know from the South and who hasn't lived or been to a northern community or a reserve, I guess I would have to say that we're not all like, be a right word for it. We live in very, very similar ways, but we have our differences, of course. Like, small towns will always be different to larger cities, and I think I think I would have to say that it's a really lovely place to be. It's a really lovely environment. It's very welcoming. Everyone's really friendly, usually, and I think it's a really great place.
Thank you for your time.
Bye. Thank you.